Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning into the Missouri Valley Conference Pre-Championship Coaches Carousel presented by Credit Union One. We'll visit with all 10 of the league's head baseball coaches ahead of the 2025 MVC Baseball Championship, which will be held May 20th through 24th on the campus of Illinois State at Duffy Bass Field, where the 8 teams will compete for the tournament title and an automatic berth into the NCAA tournament. This year's tournament will begin with seeds 5 through 8, playing a single elimination round before facing off against the top seeds in a double elimination format. We're going to start our discussion today with Belmont head coach Dave Jarvis. His team 12-9 in the league, coming off of a big sweep of Evansville on the road. First off, Coach, appreciate you joining us this morning.
Happy to be here. Thank you for having us, Joe.
Your team had 4 straight shutouts in league play, coming off of the Valpo sweep in the first game of last weekend. You've had a long career in the game. Can you recall ever having a team put up 4 straight shutouts in league play?
I do, but it has been many years ago, and it was at the junior college level years ago when we had done that. But regardless, it's an amazing feat. It's a tremendous accomplishment by our pitching staff and by Coach Gore, our AJ Gore, our pitching coach. I think it's something well worth making note of and recognition because they've had struggles with injuries and all sorts of different things, cycling in, cycling out, bringing freshmen in tough situations and so forth. But well deserved. I'm happy for them.
Yeah, I feel like you and I talk about Joe Ruzicka every time we talk to you, but he keeps doing things that are worthy of being talked about. Last 2 starts combined 15 shutout innings. I think 4 total hits in those 2 starts, something along those lines. I mean, what a luxury, right, to have somebody like that at the front of the rotation.
Yeah, this seems to be, and of course, Will Pryor had gone down to injury earlier in the season, was holding down that number 1 spot or Friday night starter role for us. And Joe has transitioned into that and done just such a tremendous job for us in that. Joe never really surprises me because we always knew that he had the makeup. We always knew that there was physical gifts that were there. We always knew that he had all the character and work ethic that it was going to require for him to be an outstanding pitcher. And it's just a lot of fun when you see those things as a coach. And over a period of a couple of years, you begin to see it all kind of come together. And I think that's kind of where Joe's at right now. It's coming together. He's a really high character kid, hard worker. You're happy for that guy when you see things really begin to work out for him. And myself, our coaching staff, his teammates, we couldn't be happier than to see these things happening with Joe right now. What's going on?
How comfortable are you with where your bullpen is at, led by guys like Harden, Perry, and Marsh out there?
As we get healthier, like every team in college baseball, we run through our share of not necessarily season-ending injuries, but injuries that'll shelf a guy for a week or two, so on and so forth, and that's throughout the game, no doubt about it. But it has a definite effect upon outcomes in the middle of your season, and it has an overall effect upon success and failure throughout the course of the season as well, too. We've gotten a little bit healthier as of late. And so I feel very comfortable with where our bullpen is at right now. We're continuing to see some of our younger arms that I feel like are developing and getting better. So I'm optimistic about where we can go. When it comes right down to it, Joe, it's all about being able to executing your pitches, keeping your strike counts in the positive rather than in the negative, pitching ahead of the count, so forth. If guys are able to do that and land multiple pitches in the area where they want to execute them, then success rates go up automatically.
On the offensive side, a big weekend for Ty Allen. What was behind that, and what have you seen from him this season that allows him to be such a catalyst for you?
Just, again, a sophomore, came here as a walk-on, is on scholarship now. Actually had to take on a pitching role for us last year because of injuries that we had, and we did not recruit him as a pitcher at all. And so he was an extremely valuable piece for us out of the bullpen as a freshman last year, which minimized our ability to really get him as many at bats because we had to kind of protect him as a freshman in the role that he had evolved into. And so we've always thought that there was a lot of things there with Ty, and now it's beginning to come to fruition. The more at bats he gets under his belt, the better approaches he has, the better at bats that he puts together. And so it's not a huge surprise. It's just really cool to see what he's doing because I love him. Ty's a great kid. Actually, his first name is Tyrus. I think he was named after Ty Cobb, if I remember correctly. So that's kind of cool. I've always thought too. But he's doing a good job for us, playing well defensively out in the outfield and really, holding down middle part of our lineup and doing a good job in his role of support there as well.
As we sit here a couple of weeks away from the conference tournament getting going, as you evaluate where your club is at now, what stands out as things you would like to maybe clean up or do a little bit better job of in order to give you a chance to succeed in the tournament format?
Well, always continuing with better executions on the mound. The more you grow in that direction, the more depth you create throughout not only your starting rotation, but throughout your bullpen. And so we want to continue to grow in that. We want to continue to control the running game on the mound as well, too, to the best of our ability. And then, defensively, I've been really pleased with the way that we've played. I felt like we had that capability throughout the course of the year. So we want to maintain that and continue to play really solid defense. We're always pursuing perfection, but, knowing that you're never going to achieve it, as Vince Lombardi said, but you're going to find yourself in excellence if you're pursuing perfection and working at it every day. And our guys are working really hard at it. And I think Coach Steen does a tremendous job with our infield defense. Coach Craig's doing a tremendous job with our outfield defense and so forth. So these assistant coaches deserve so much credit for any of the successes that we're having, for any of the honors and accolades that these players are receiving. It's just that their player development is so important at this program and at this level, I feel like. And they get a lot of that here. They really do. Continue to grow offensively. Now, offensively cycles. Offense in every team that I've ever seen or been a part of or coached, offense kind of comes in cycles. And so you just hope all of that kind of comes together at the right time. But pitching and defense have the opportunity to, I feel like, be more consistent aspects of the game. And base running as well can be more consistent too. A lot of it, as I look throughout our conference, I see it being teams cycling up or cycling down. And a big factor in that, there's baseball that's a huge factor in that, and who you're playing and so on and so forth. But health, I think, in this league this spring has been a factor with that as well, too. I see teams, Evansville was struggling with a couple of health issues that had an effect on our weekend. There's no doubt about that. They get those guys back, and they're going to be a lot different team, So it's just there's factors in your control, but there's a whole lot of factors out of your control as well, too.
Yeah, no doubt. Team cycling in the right direction, though. Like I said, 12-9 coming off of a sweep. So playing well at the right time, Coach. Thank you for joining us this morning, and good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate you having us.
Take care. All right. After Dave Jarvis, we're going to cycle in, Elvis Dominguez, the head coach of the Bradley Braves, a club who is playing pretty good baseball at this point of the season. When we had Coach on last time, they were really fighting it, and we talked about wanting his players to have that reward of seeing the victory at the end of all the work they were putting in. And since we've talked to him, they've played a better brand of baseball that's come along with a lot of victories in league play. And so, first off, Coach, I appreciate you joining us this morning.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Coming off of winning 2 of 3 against Indiana State as part of this period when like I said, that your team is playing better baseball. Since the last time we talked to you 3-4 weeks ago, whenever that was, what has changed for your club? What do you think has clicked for them that has allowed them to have a little more success in terms of the results?
Well, we had a lot of guys that, especially on the pitching side, that have really stepped up for us. We've been handicapped or handcuffed, I should say, from on the pitching side all year long with a lot of injuries, a lot of guys that are out there, a lot of guys that we were counting on. So we threw a lot of guys that into roles that necessarily they weren't ready for, not prepared for, but more importantly, they had to basically take the bull by the horn and kind of come in and they done a great job. Jack Stellano, who's been a bullpen guy for us, all of a sudden giving us back-to-back quality starts. Gavin Thompson, another guy that had to be put into the Friday night role. So we came out of the bullpens, giving us 2 great quality starts as well. So a lot of guys have just kind of worked themselves into those kind of particular roles and really given us a shot in the arm.
One guy you didn't mention there that I was going to ask you about is Josh Vaughn with five
Mhm.
shutout innings against Indiana State. I mean, um, was that something you kind of had on your bingo card, so to say, is something that he had in him? But tell me a little bit about his performance.
Well, he's been a kid that we've tried to move along. He's a freshman for us, great arm, but he hasn't pitched the last 2 weeks. He was battling some injuries and so forth. So this is his first time back in 2 weeks, but he's got all the potential, all the ability, and gave us a great outing against Indiana State on Saturday. I mean, held them to no hits over 5 innings. So that was really we needed that, and he really stepped up for us.
Tell me what these last few weeks have done for your team, because we spent a lot of time, like I mentioned last time we talked about, just the the coaching challenge of, hey, keeping these guys locked in and doing the right
Mhm.
things, and understanding the wins might come. What have the wins now starting to come? What has that done just for the locker room and for the team in general?
Well, it does wonders. I mean, it does wonders. They're starting to see the hard work is actually paying off, and we stuck with the process. We've had 3 or 4 great weekends here that really we're playing basically really solid baseball, and they're starting to see the fruits of the labor, and they really stuck together through all this. I'm really proud of this group. We've had a lot of logistical nightmares around here the last couple of years, and they've really battled through that. And it really is great to see them getting rewarded for their hard work.
Yeah, one of those was, I believe, that the series over the weekend, neutral site, right, Coach? Technically speaking, yeah. So, what kind of challenges does that bring, and what level of pride do you have in your team's just ability to kind of just be flexible and roll with the punches?
Yeah, I mean it's a situation where it's a bad hand that we've been dealt. We had to do the same thing against with Illinois State. Had to go play a series on the road, which was a home series. Had to do it again this past weekend. Our guys they're battle tested. They've adjusted really well, and whatever they seem to throw our way, we've been able to adapt really well. So yeah, we had to go play another home series on the road, but that's part of what it is.
Yeah, that's right. Uh, on the offensive side, Ashton Horcham, am I pronouncing his
Mhm.
last name correctly? Is that how you?
Yeah, Horsham. Yes.
Horcham, yeah. What has allowed him to be such a big catalyst for you guys? Tell us a little bit about him.
Well, I mean, we had a young man by the name of Wes Gingrich here at the start of the year was our starting center fielder. He got hurt right away. And so been trying a lot of guys out there. Hort just seems to be the guy gives us more stability. It's played really well defensively. Offensively, we were just hoping to get, some production out of him, but he's really swinging a hot bat right now. But it gives us a lot of consistency, and that's one thing we haven't had in our lineup or our team all year is the fact of having the same, 9 guys out on the field. And he really just solidified that position for us. Same way with Cole Lucky, who has really come on here lately. And he's really kind of given us a big power bat in the middle of the lineup. Another guy that really kind of put things in perspective is Jackson Smith. Um, he really kind of freshman kid, but he was hurt for a while, didn't play for a couple of weeks. So anyway, it just basically solidified our lineup and it's given us a good shot in the arm.
What stands out to you is we're a couple weekends or weeks out from the conference tournament. Your team has
Mhm.
obviously put itself in a much more advantageous position the last few weeks. But what stands out to you as things that you might like to clean up or do a little bit better in order to set the team up for success moving forward into the tournament?
Well, we really can't afford to have anybody else go down. I mean, we're basically it's the 9 guys that we have are the 9 guys that we have. But it really is we can't afford any more injuries. I think right now, if we play clean baseball like we have been, I think we got a very good shot. We hold all the cards in our hands, so it's just going to be consistency. I'm trying to keep these guys upbeat. We're about to go down the home stretch here, the last 2 series, so I'm hoping that we can go ahead and continue to do that, Joe.
If another guy goes down, Coach, we'll call up our buddy Shane Dennis and see if he has any more
Oh
eligibility
my
left, and
gosh, yeah, I'll bring Shane back anytime. Yes,
see if he's got a couple bullets left in that arm.
you
Uh,
bet.
Coach, appreciate your time this morning. Congrats on the run of form for your team recently, and good luck the rest of the way.
Jill, thanks a lot. Means a lot, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care, Coach.
Bye bye.
All right, thank you again to Bradley head baseball coach Elvis Dominguez. Now, normally at this point, we would bring in Evansville's head baseball coach Wes Carroll. However, They're going to be coming on a little bit later. We'll be joined by him later on. The Aces are currently, as we record this, celebrating the team's graduating seniors with a bit of a ceremony, obviously well deserved for that group given all that they've accomplished in Evansville over the last several years. So instead, we are going to slide on through to Illinois Chicago and their head baseball coach, Shawn McDermott. His team is 12-9 in Missouri Valley Conference play. They are tied for fourth in the conference with Belmont, so right there in good position to make a move the rest of the way. They're coming off of a sweep of Valparaiso over the weekend. Coach, first off, I appreciate you joining us this morning.
Yeah, you bet, Joe. How's everything going?
Can't complain, Coach. We're getting to the fun part of the season, right? You know, where things are starting to take shape. You kind of understand the stakes. The weather, I hope, in the Windy City is warming up at least a little bit for you guys.
Yeah.
I'm not going to hope for too much for you because I know that's, it's never going to be as warm as you'd like there. But yeah, we're just fun part of the season. I certainly can't complain. I have to imagine you like the way your team pitched against Valpo. Tell me a little bit about the mound performance over the weekend.
Yeah, I think we really pitched the last several weekends. I thought we've really pitched well. It came at a good time for our starters to really give us some unbelievable performances to give our bullpen kind of a rest because we had relied heavily on a couple of our arms at the back end there, and so it was nice for those guys to get a rest, but like there's a double-edged sword to that too, because you want to keep those guys throwing too. So, but very proud of our guys, the way we went out and really attacked the strike zone. I think we only had 3 walks all weekend and just filled it up, and we played good defense behind it too. So a good weekend for us for sure.
Yeah, in the rotation, having that, Schuler back and Egan, I feel like is a situation where at a bare minimum, you know what you're going to get. That's got to be somewhat comforting to you and your coaching staff.
Joe, like we started off the year and Dylan, for whatever reason, just wasn't Dylan Schuler, and it lasted 2 starts into the Missouri Valley Conference. And we just sat down, looked at some video and made some adjustments. And really since the start at Indiana State, where it wasn't very good, I think he's been really, really good. And been the Dylan Schuler of old. And Tommy Egan and Brandon Bach both coming off slight injuries. And we just had to nurse those guys along. So now they're finally at pitch counts where they can get us deep into games, and that's taken the pressure off our bullpen. And I think you're seeing our team be what they can be heading down the stretch run. And not that we've got it all figured out, because you never do, but it's certainly nice to have those guys in a place where they can go deep into games.
Zach Millsap has a 1.96 ERA in Valley play. What has clicked for him of late?
Well, Millie's an ultra competitive guy, and last year battled through some things, and again, I think this is his second year in the league, and I think he just wants the baseball. It's not a physical thing. It's not an adjustment he made in a bullpen. It's just a mindset. And the son of a gun gets out there and wants the baseball. And I don't care how much you use him, he wants the ball. And how refreshing is that in today's baseball, that he wants the ball, and it doesn't matter how tired or whatever. He put me in. I'm ready.
Yeah, you go to take the ball from him, Coach. I imagine you're risking a fist fight out there on the mound.
Yeah, you don't. The game's over, or else you're not taking it. The only way he's ending it, or there's going to be a fist fight for sure. But no, Zach's been outstanding, and could not be more proud of him. He's a huge leader on our team in the bullpen. Quiet guy, but just the mentality is what he brings.
On the offensive side, Luke Nowak, speaking of guys that are playing well in MVC play, batting .407 against Valley competition, 16 stolen bases. I mean, tell us a little bit about what's made him such a dangerous piece in that lineup.
Well, he can beat you a lot of different ways. That's just it. He comes across as small in stature, but he's very strong, very physical player, extremely fast. So he can beat you with a bunt, but he also has the strength where he can hit it over the fence or get into the gaps. And then he is a weapon on the base pass. So he just can beat you so many different ways. And very much like Zach, he is a blue collar, gritty, guy, and you're going to get him on occasion, and he's going to get you. So, he's hitting very well in our league. You said 407. I think he's hitting 385 overall. So, there's not a lot of discrepancy between the non-conference and the conference for Luke, and we need him. We need him to continue to play as well as he is.
In the big picture, your team has now won 3 straight series. As you zoom out, what generally have you liked about what your team has done over these last few weeks?
Yeah, I just think we're playing with more confidence, and it starts with your pitching. But I look back, Joe, really, you go back to the opening weekend down at Southern Illinois, and they obviously are playing very well, and we lose 2 games on Saturday in walk-off fashion, and so like it's not like we haven't been competitive going down the stretch. And I think kind of solidifying that starting pitching, I think we're starting to settle in offensively and really have a really good plan. I'm just excited to see how we can finish and see if we can just relax and play the type of baseball that we need to play in order for us to be successful.
Yeah, again, Illinois Chicago. Illinois State is next on the list. Illinois Chicago, 12-9 in the league, tied for 4th in the standings, and playing about as well as anybody in the conference as we sit here today. Coach, I appreciate you joining this morning. Good luck the rest of the way.
Joe, always great to see you, and we'll see you down in Bloomington in a couple weeks.
All right, take care, Coach.
Thank you.
All right, we now, as I fumbled earlier, we are now moving on to Illinois State head baseball coach Steve Holm. His team is 11-10 in the Missouri Valley Conference, coming off of back-to-back, arguably the 2 toughest series that you can have this year in the league against Southern Illinois and Missouri State. Coach, appreciate you joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
I have to imagine, as I look at the stat sheet, I have to imagine you would take your lineup just with the way they've swung it this year against just about anybody you'd come up against.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously been the strength of our club all year. And, early on, we started off, I think we were 3-10 at one point, and those first couple of weeks, we only had about 3 of the big boys swinging the bat well. And the last 2 or 3 weeks, we've had that kind of the same issue going where when you're extremely offensive like we are, you do have these, peaks and valleys. In the last 3 weekends, it's been a little bit harder for us to score runs. I think we've lost maybe 3 or 4 of those conference games by 1 run, which when they're swinging the bat that well, you don't lose those games by 1 run. But unfortunately, that's where we're at right now.
Judah Morris is someone who we're learning about on the fly this season. When he came in, when you brought him in, did you expect him to be someone who could be right there with Pasella in terms of being a run producer, or has he maybe even surprised you guys a little bit with how he's produced?
We brought him in, and he was a sophomore, but I think he was a 3rd-year sophomore at that point, and we had him slotted to hit in the 4-hole his first year for us, and Pasella was going to hit 6, even though we knew Pasella was a 3-hole hitter. But as a freshman, he would rather do the rise up as opposed to the walk of shame and go down towards the 9-hole. But Judah broke his hamate bone, I think 2 weeks before that season started, and we got him back, and he played like 6 games maybe and dislocated his knee. And I think I want to say he had about 35 at-bats that year. And we knew what was in there. And then, obviously last year we played him the full season, but you got to remember he'd sat out pretty much a whole year. And he'd sat out his first year out of high school with an injury, and then he played a full year. Then he sat out, then he played. And now I think you're kind of seeing the Judah Morris that we recruited and we thought we had. But, college baseball's hard, and you got to play to be good. And, if you're not playing, you're probably, getting worse as opposed to getting better.
When you look at the stat sheet, just an MVC play, a couple of guys, Stolga and Mastros, have actually been some of your better pieces in the lineup, statistically speaking, in conference play. How much of those guys just given your lineup some length to where you're not just praying that the lineup gets around to the same couple of guys?
Yeah, well, we've had that team before that you're just mentioned, but those guys have carried us a lot lately. I mean, the top of our lineup has really not been firing on all cylinders the last couple weeks, and early on in conference play, the whole thing was going. But luckily for us, like you said, the lineup is really long. Stolga and Masters are both at 300 or flirting with it. Kind of day by day, it kind of changes. But ultimately, having those guys, I mean, Danny Contreras is hitting 315 or whatever he's at in the 7-hole, and Outlaw's been above 300 almost the whole year in the 8-hole. So there's a lot of production down there. And I think especially with Mastros he's got kind of that Ryan Cermak trajectory to where the first half of his sophomore year, he hit 250. And then Cermak ended up at like 290 or something that sophomore year with, about 10, 11 homers. And Masters is a similar athlete where he might have been, more athletic than he was skilled at the beginning of the season, but you're seeing the skill catch up to the athleticism.
On the mound, I want to ask you about Tyrell Chadwick because he's got such an interesting stat line. In today's college baseball, you don't see guys that are as effective as he is without the swing and miss. Explain to me how he's as effective as he is without having necessarily that kind of swing and miss in his game.
Well, the ground ball ratio is like outrageously high. And the fastball metrically is as good as there is probably in our conference. And with the movement and the profile and the velocity and the sink and the run, all those things put together, it's very dangerous. And other teams know that. So they come out swinging early on him. Their goal is to, put the fastball in play, and because there is some swing and miss on the fastball. Now this weekend we got some swing and miss because he landed more off speed pitches than maybe the other team had anticipated. So with him, it's a fastball that they know is coming a lot, and the fastball's hard to square up. But with that, they put it in play. But ultimately, we hope they put it in play right to Shy Robinson or Kyle Gibson on the ground to third and short, and it gets a lot of outs for us.
In the big picture, I have to imagine you feel fairly comfortable with the rotation with Chadwick and Harper, Perry, those guys. I mean, I'm sure we could nitpick some performance things, but generally speaking, you know who your guys are there, and that has to feel comforting for you.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at our club, like you have the offense where it needs to be. It's towards the top of the conference. The defense has been fantastic all year. The starting pitching, you feel like you got 4 good starters. I mean, Carter Monk beat Iowa twice, and going into the weekend they were first in the Big Ten. I don't know if they still are, but not too many teams can put that out there. We just need those results on the scoreboard to kind of show all the little pieces and parts, because the pieces and parts right now are better than the results. And ultimately, as a coach, you'd rather have your results be a little bit better than your pieces and parts.
Yeah, that's right. You don't get any bonus points for everyone thinking that you're better than what the results are. Tell me about your bullpen. Like, what are you comfortable with? What do you need to see more of? Just giving me a feel for that unit.
We got hurt a little bit early on with Trezin Barzik wasn't ready to start the season. He's been very good for us. Kind of that guy that can come in and throw strikes and kind of calm the thing down, which you need that guy twice a week, it seems like. Joe Husak has been our closer for the last 2 years. He's got 6 or 7 saves at this point. And then, Matt Donison that's come in. He's got punch out stuff. He pitched the last 3 innings yesterday against Missouri State, and he was doing very well there. And then the young kid that's really come on is Toby Schriefer. He got a save on Sunday against Missouri State, and he's probably that closer, of the future type of guy for us. He kind of is not rattled. He's pretty steady Eddie, and he's got some good stuff, and the stuff's going to get better as he goes. So, we feel like we got some guys in the back there that can really help us out. And, we got a couple other guys like Ryan Weaver and Carter Monk that throw out of the bullpen every once in a while. And then, Braden Rush has been coming on for us as well from the left side.
You're going to be hosting the conference tournament here in a few weeks. First time since 2019 that Duffy Bass has hosted the MVC tournament. What does that mean for the program is the big picture question. But then in the more narrow view, what kind of advantage does that give a team to be playing on its home turf in a tournament setting?
Well, obviously for the program, it's great for us. It's a lot of publicity. Our administration's done a lot for our program, and since 2019, we've had an indoor built. We got a new hitter's eye. We have new turf, so it'd be great to showcase some of those things. But when it comes to the actual tournament, playing at home is huge. Obviously, I think you've seen a lot of the teams in our league win the tournament at home. Evansville won it last year. I believe Indiana State won theirs a couple years ago. I know Missouri State won it in 22. So there's obviously some competitive advantage when you play at home and you're more comfortable there. So obviously looking forward to that, and we just need to get our big boys swinging the bat and kind of hit that thing with some confidence and some momentum.
Well, I'm certain Duffy Bass Field and the Illinois State community going to be gracious hosts for the conference tournament, except on the field, Coach. You don't want to be gracious hosts on the field. You want to be rude
Very
to your
correct.
guests. on the
Yes.
field. But in terms of the hospitality, very much looking forward to it. Coach, thank you for joining us this morning, and good luck the rest of the way.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Nice
Take care.
talking to you.
All right, we will move on to Indiana State head baseball coach Tracy Archeletta. His team coming off of a tough series against Bradley, but still sitting in a good position, 10-11 in conference play, and a team that has some serious upside and will be looking to make some noise in the conference tournament here in a couple weeks. First off, Coach, I appreciate you joining us this morning. It was a bit of a unique series over the weekend against Bradley, in that it ended up being a neutral site series just because of logistics on the Bradley end of things. What kind of challenge, if any, does that pose differently, or was it kind of just, hey, we're just going to drive here instead of driving to Peoria?
I think the challenges were more on the on our ops guy, Mason LaGrange, changing everything on that end. Atmosphere was non-existent. There's not many people in the seats and stuff like that. But besides that, I mean, it was just a rainy, overcast every day, and it was one of those.
Yeah, it was Midwestern baseball to a T, rainy, and had to fight through some things. But how big was it to salvage a game, though, to come back out and get a game and make sure you left feeling good about something, and understanding that, okay, we're still have these bigger goals in mind?
Well, I mean, it's huge. I mean, every game's big. I mean, and it starts in the beginning of the season to the end. I mean, you got to try to many as you can. You can't. You want to keep the winning stuff going, but when you lose one, you want to get back on that winning track as soon as you can. And it was a tight baseball game, and we've been unfortunate in a bunch of those here in the last week and a half or 2 weeks. And so getting a tight game win is big for us.
Tell me a little bit about Grant Parsons' effort in that game. I imagine you couldn't have asked for a whole lot more from him.
No, I mean, Grant's had 3 pitches going. And he's getting healthier, which was good. I mean, it's his second start back from a little, just a little injury in there. So that was good to see him, and he was feeling strong and wanted the baseball in there in the late innings. And so that's really good for us, just to get another guy back on and rolling a little bit.
Gavin Morris has been basically unhittable in MVC play. Tell us a little about his performance and what makes him such a tough opponent for hitters in this conference.
I think his intent, his experience, and his intent of what he does. He's able to have multiple pitches into there. He's had some confidence. Once Gav's getting a little bit of confidence of filling up zone and doing a really good job with that. But also, I think what he's done here over the last couple of weeks is he's starting to think the game a little bit better. He's starting to understand, that of when he can throw balls and get swings out of them is the main thing. For us as a staff, it's just good to see Gav have some success in that role, because early it was kind of back and forth in the non-conference stuff, but once he got into conference, he's done a really good job.
Andrew Ortiz has been coming on for you guys as of late. What have you seen from him that has put him in a position where he's earned some more time out on the field for you?
He's taking advantage of some opportunities with the left-handers. I mean, he's a guy that we play with a left-handed pitching and has had a lot of success. That's probably the main thing with Ortiz and his everyday. I mean, it's been very impressive with him and Henderson of how they didn't get much opportunity throughout the early part of the season, but they kept working on what they needed to. And so this way, when they did get opportunity, they were ready and had some success. And we talk about that as coaches all the time, of you got to keep grinding it out and keep working and be ready for that day. And for 2 young guys, 2 freshmen, Ortiz and Hendo both did a really good job with that. As
we head toward the conference tournament here in a couple of weeks, what are some things you and your staff are thinking of things you'd like to clean up or maybe be a little bit better at to put your team in a position to win some games in the tournament?
The big thing with us, we talked about it a little bit, I don't know the exact numbers in conference, but we're towards the top in the hitting part, probably top 4 or 5, and the pitching part we're in the top 4 or 5, and the defense we're in the top 4 or 5, but we don't put it all together. And that's the big thing. I mean, there'll be a day where we're hitting a little bit and we can't get the pitching rolling, and there'll be a day when we're pitching it and we can't get the hitting going. The one thing that's been consistent over the course of the the last 2 to 3 weeks is our defense. We've been playing some pretty good defense into there, and I say we're just taking care of routine plays, and that's what it's about. And we've made some big ones at times, but we have to put the whole game together. We have to pitch it and hit it together and get rolling in that way is the biggest thing that we've talked about with our guys.
My last thing for you, and you weren't a stranger to the Missouri Valley Conference coming into this league this year, just given you coached in the region. You, I'm sure, played Valley teams at USI, but what have you learned about the league maybe now that you're in it game after game after game that stands out to you?
Parity. It doesn't matter on any given day who you're playing. There's talent in all the way down from the first team into the eighth team, and you have to be ready to play. And and I think offensively, this league has a lot of guys in the top of the order that can hurt you, and so you have to be ready to go a little bit. And then from the pitching side, the same thing. It's been a very competitive league this year. You don't see it, at least from our side of it. I don't pay attention too much to the scores around the league a ton, but within our games, I mean, there's just been a lot of back and forth games that could have been won by an inning and different things in there and by each pitch, and that's fun. I mean, that's what makes the Valley, fun to be in, and every day is a war, and so it's great for our league that there is that much parity into there. But at times I'm gonna get more gray hairs coming in here, I think, a little bit. So hopefully we can separate some of those runs a little bit and get a little bit more.
Yeah, next couple of weeks should be fun as well. But you're right, Coach. It's a little bit stressful for those in the dugout, but for folks like me who just get to watch it, it sure is a heck of a lot of fun not to know what to expect weekend to weekend. Once again, Coach, appreciate you joining us this morning, and good luck the rest of the way.
All right, thanks for being.
Take care. All right, we're going to roll on and head to Missouri State. Talk to head baseball coach Joey Hawkins. His team leads the Missouri Valley Conference as we sit here today. His team has a 15-6 record in conference. They're also coming off of winning 2 out of 3 over the weekend against Illinois State. Really impressive run for his team right now. Coach, first off, appreciate you joining us this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
I'm going to ask you a real simple question to start off. How good is Nick Rodriguez?
I mean, you're at the point in the season now where, he should be in every All-American conversation because pretty special year, special streak, but probably most importantly, just, his turning point in the season was kind of our turning point in the season as a team as well.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that. What was that turning point, and what have you seen, not just from him, but your team in general since that point?
Just the ability to make some adjustments on the fly. Early on, we lost some really tough games. We were in a lot of fights that we just didn't come out on top of, and that can be really hard on you mentally. So, but I think when your best player shows up and works every day and makes those adjustments, the rest follow. And that was kind of the theme of our team. We've kind of kept the ball rolling. We've stubbed our toe a little bit over the last 6 weeks here and there, but our ability to bounce back has kind of been the story of this team.
Zach Stewart, after something of a rough start, has turned it on a little bit in MVC play. What's been behind that for him?
Just work, both mentally and physically. Just having a better process mentally going into games, and when he does have some failure, how to deal with it in the moment and not let it drag on to multiple at-bats or multiple games. And then just, getting in the cage, working on a couple things with him that he had some success with in the past and maybe got away from, but special talent. So when it clicks, it's going to be pretty good, obviously, and we've been getting that lately.
Speaking of All-Americans, Max Knight certainly has a chance to be included there as a two-way guy. How has he dealt with that from the physical standpoint, from the preparation standpoint, like all those little pieces that we don't really think about that go into being a two-way guy?
Well, if you knew Max Knight, you'd know why he's good at it, because he's just a pretty easygoing dude and keeps our clubhouse light, but good communicator, right? He's going to let us know how his arm's feeling. We're pretty smart with how much defense work we give him. And then obviously when you're managing the game, it's a lot easier if you're planning to use them for some length to just have him in the DH spot. So we've been doing that a lot lately, which I think makes his life a little easier. He could take an at bat and then, go down to the bullpen, throw some weighted balls, do his bands, and then, get hot when we need him to. So, but I mean, we want to talk about, Nick Rodriguez, definitely our best player, but Max Knight in a lot of ways has been an MVP for us as well.
On the mound, what kind of luxury is it to have Jason Schaff be a guy that you know what you're going to get? He's been so good for you in conference play, just kind of a steady guy like that in the rotation.
Really important. Really important. He's another guy that, got off to a bad start, but just credit to our coaching staff of continuing to work with him and make those adjustments. And then credit to Jason, he has experience in the league. So I think he felt like his time was coming. And really, it just took a couple midweek starts, one at Arkansas State where he threw really well, and then pitching against #2 team in the country at Arkansas. And kind of just got his season going, and he's been riding that wave ever since, and a very key piece for us as of late.
Yeah, if you can get it done against that Arkansas lineup, you can get it done about just about anybody. I imagine watching that game film ahead of time was like watching a horror film, Coach, just with their level of quality up and down the lineup.
That's right.
What have you liked about Holmes as a reliever? He's been in a couple of different roles for you guys this year, but maybe found a home in the bullpen. What do you like about him in that role?
He's just a veteran, I think he's calm out there. Uh, College baseball is crazy in 2025. It's a lot different than when I played. And I think I'm starting to realize, whether you want to believe it or not, just innings 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 are just a lot different than 1 through 4. And for us and how our offense works, I really like how we match up when we got to go into teams' bullpens. I think we're going to score runs. So our ability to have some lockdown guys back there is really important. Holmes is one of them. Max Knight, obviously, we talked about, and then Owen Slater as well. So kind of got a little trifecta down there, and just managing them throughout the series is always important. And they're going to be a really, really big part of how we do things down the stretch.
My last thing for you, what would you like to see from your team the next couple of weeks to A, continue to lead the conference, put your team in a position to win a championship, but then B, set your team up for success in the tournament here in a couple of weeks?
I think you keep doing what you're doing. It sounds cliche. We've played well. We've made adjustments. You can't stop working at those things. We're gonna have a team meeting today and have those conversations about what we got to do better from this past weekend. So I think that's the most important thing. And then something I've been highlighting a lot of lately is just slow your season down. Don't be in a race to get this regular season over with. Like, be in the moment every game. Tomorrow's UCF. That's what we're going to worry about. And then we'll get on to Indiana State. We're not thinking about Murray State series. We're not thinking about the conference tournament. So just slowing everything down, being in the moment, and most importantly, just enjoying it, right? It's a good position to be in, and our guys have been having a lot of fun.
All right. Missouri State leading the conference at 15-6. Thank you again to head baseball coach Joey Hawkins. Coach, thank you for joining us this morning, and good luck the rest of the way.
Appreciate it. Have a great day.
You too, Coach. All right. We will now move on to Murray State and their head baseball coach, Dan Skiirka. His team is 14-7 in league play, just one game behind Missouri State, coming off of a huge series win, taking 2 of 3 against SIU. Coach, looks like a beautiful day in Murray, Kentucky, and thank you for joining us this morning.
I appreciate it. I'm actually on the recruiting trail, but it is
okay.
Always a beautiful day in Murray, Kentucky.
That's right. Look, recruiting is the name of the game, Coach. Kudos to you. Thank you for joining us, given that you're out on the road. We appreciate that, truly. What did you like in your team's series win over the weekend against the Salukis?
Man, really handling adversity. I mean, it was we joke about always sunny in Murray, but unfortunately, a bunch of rain. We canceled on Saturday, had to push to Sunday. Nobody likes doubleheaders, but early Sunday morning doubleheader, and the guys got after it, found a way to win the series in a big walk off by Carson Garner. But really just handling that, the uncertainty of no on field practice any of the days, and just came out and played solid baseball against a good team.
Dom Decker is batting .472 in Missouri Valley Conference play. I would call that video game numbers, but Coach, I'm not sure I could do that on MLB The Show if I put it on easy mode. What has gotten into him that he's rolling like this and hitting nearly 500 in conference?
Man, he's obviously having a great year, right? But he just works. He's a baseball guy. He's always in the cages. We're always talking hitting. He's always bouncing ideas off me or one of the assistant coaches. And the hard work's paid off. He started off slow. coming back from a season-ending injury last year in junior college, messed up his ankle pretty good, then messed up his hamate this summer while he was rehabbing. So it took him a while to kind of find his groove. But like you said, he's a ball player, right? One of those old school, coach's son, just gets after it and has a real feel for hitting.
Speaking of just being a true ball player, like I was looking at the stat sheet, and between him and Luke Mastoni, they just never strike out. Like I imagine that has to be part of that, just the approach of just battling and being willing to fight stuff off until you put a ball in play for those guys.
Yeah, our offense is a little different this year than it was last year. Last year we hit a lot more home runs, and with that came a lot more strikeouts. We scored in bunches a lot more often. This year, like you said, we've had multiple returners cut down their strikeout numbers, increase their walks. And Luke and Dominic are two of those guys that have bought into that approach and have had success.
You lead the MVC in on base percentage. That kind of feels like that goes with that theme there. Is that something like when you knew that you were going to have to be a little bit different on offense, like how much is what you are leading in on base percentage, the battling, the gritty ball player stuff? How much is that just a part of all of that?
It is, right. Every team's unique, and this year, that's why we play 5 non-conference weekends, and and practice all fall to try to figure out our identity and how we're going to score runs and how we're going to be successful as a team. So they have bought into that, and I think with mature hitters, they have a good approach, they have a good game plan going in, but they're not afraid to hit with 2 strikes. They grind out at bats, they foul pitches off, and they really trust the next guy. We talk about being deep, competitive 1 through 9 every time we step in that box, and the games that we have done that and aren't afraid to pass it off to the next guy, that's when we've been successful. So couldn't be happier with the guys on the offensive side. They get after it, they work every day, and it's been fun to be a part of.
Of course, you also lead the Valley in overall ERA. Tell us a little bit about the pitching staff that maybe has, at least for me, been overlooked a little bit, and what you like about that unit.
Yeah, going in, it was a big question mark for us. Ethan Like and Kane Elmy were, 2 of our returners, and Jacob Pastetti. But outside of that, everybody was brand new. We got a couple freshmen, we got a couple JUCO guys, we got a couple 4-year transfers. So it was a big question mark, especially with the departure of the guys that we had last year. But man, they've showed up in a huge way. Shuddy and Silva and Kane on the front end, Kellum and Zenko on the back end, and a bunch of guys mixed in. Derek LeBron's had some big outings for us. Been pleasantly, I have to say, surprised, because we just didn't know. Guys from all different backgrounds without the track record of doing it at this level. But Coach Adkins, my pitching coach, Steve, he's done a great job with them, and they found their roles, and sometimes those roles evolve, with college baseball, and we've had some big starts, some spot starts, and some other guys finishing games, and that's, they've really attacked. I think that's the biggest thing. They're throwing a bunch of strikes. We're playing good defense behind them. They trust that, so they don't feel like they have to do it all themselves. It's been fun.
My last thing for you is, what are you looking at the next couple of weeks ahead of the conference tournament to A, continue your push to maybe win a championship here at the, in the next couple of weeks, and then B, set your team up for success to have success in the conference tournament and maybe make some Murray State history?
Yeah. This week's going to be big. They got finals, they got a lot more distractions, finals, graduation, all that stuff approaching right into the year. We don't have a midweek game, so we're going to have to find a way to stay sharp, have really good practices, and then go down to Belmont and play a really good team. They're hot right now. They're really pitching it. So it's going to be a battle. We've always they've always played us tough. We've had some good battles the last few years. Dating back to when we were midweek opponents when I was an assistant coach at Murray State, and then we were they joined the OVC, and then now we're in the MVC, obviously, and man, they're a good ball club. So we're going to have to be sharp this week, without a midweek game to help us prepare. And we're going to have to take care of business down there. And then, hopefully that puts us in a situation with, a fun weekend to finish it with Missouri State.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Definitely looking forward to that series. Coach, appreciate you joining us this morning. Good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you. Take care.
All right. Take care. All right. We are rolling on with Southern Illinois head baseball coach Lance Rhodes. His team 13-8 in Valley play, 2 games back of Missouri State, still very much in the mix at the top of the Missouri Valley. No surprise given the consistency of this program under Coach Rhodes. First off, Coach, appreciate you joining us this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Given the tough weekend you had last weekend, I have to imagine you, if nothing else, were happy to see the fight for your team to salvage the game, get a game 3 win, and move on feeling a lot better about things.
Yeah, anytime you can win a game and not get swept, it definitely helps in the overall scheme of where you finish in the season. And it was a frustrating start to the weekend. We didn't play great on Friday night, and then the second game, we started off pretty sluggish, and then we had a chance really late in the game. And you look at it, if you were there at the game, I mean, we missed a hit by inches. Their third baseman made a tremendous diving play and basically took him right to the bag for a double play. And if that ball gets by, we score the go-ahead run and potentially a run at first base comes all the way around, and then we have a chance to win that series. So we're probably a foot away from winning the series. And it was again, 2 really good teams competing against each other, and we just happened to come out on the wrong end of it.
You happened in that third game, I think 4 home runs for your team. You're third in the MVC in slugging. I remember talking to you earlier this season, and you said you wanted a little more of that physicality in the lineup this season. How has that gone? How pleased have you been with your team's ability to put up runs in bunches?
Yeah, I definitely adding the long ball back in. You feel like you're always in the game, and we've shown that where we've been down by several, and then a couple home runs later, you're right back in it, or you've got the lead. So the luxury of being able to hit the ball over the fence is really nice. Where we've got to make an improvement down the stretch is we just need more consistency from top to bottom, and we really haven't gotten hot yet as an entire group. And I've said this several different times. I kind of compare our lineup a little bit to the Evansville lineup from last year, where everybody looked at that lineup and knew how scary it could be. And sometimes it was good and sometimes it wasn't. And they kind of had some ebb and flows throughout their season. And then when they got basically down to the final couple of weeks of the regular season and then went into the tournament, there's really nothing you could do to get that lineup out. And, you saw that through a regional, you saw that through a super regional. And I kind of have hopes that our team can resemble that type of offensive performance, to where if we would get going 1 through 9, like I know we can, it could be a pretty tough lineup to navigate through.
Is there a through line with that where it's like if we do X or Y better 1 through 9, that will be where you want them to be, or is it just kind of a matter of it's a different thing with different guys to get them going?
It's a little bit different with some different guys. And another thing too, we've got some guys that are close to chasing some records where we need to just play instead of chase those things. We've also got guys that, haven't necessarily won before, and they can kind of see that we got a chance. And I think we just need to relax and, just do your part individually on making the guy behind you have an easier at bat. And then the one thing that we've been is once somebody gets going, it kind of trickles down, right? And hitting is contagious, and failing is contagious too. And we just need to the best we possibly can, try to get all these guys going at the same time to finish our season here.
Got good outings over the weekend from Jackson Payne and Al Holguin, and those are guys that haven't been starters necessarily all season long. So how pleased are you with the fact that they've arrived here where they both gave you a big time chance to win over the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, been proud of a lot of the guys that's been stepping up on the mound. I mean, you look at the injury bug that we've had, and I know everybody's going through it, but to have one of your pitchers out with a broken foot, and then another, Meade Johnson hasn't, he didn't pitch over the weekend, and so some of the things that we've done, to be in the race that we have with a lot of the guys that were out, it's a testament to our guys for never quitting and not, next man up mentality. But, we've got some of these guys that we're hopeful that are on the verge of coming back and being back into the rotation of being able to play or be able to pitch. which obviously adding, more good players back to your roster is always a good thing. So hopefully that kind of help us down the stretch too.
What stands out as we look towards the conference tournament here in a couple of weeks? What stands out to you as being some things you and your coaching staff are thinking about that you'd like to clean up, you'd like to do a little bit better to be in the best position possible as you head there?
Yeah, I think one, we've got a couple of these guys with some rehab going on right now, and if we can get them back, that's going to be a big boost. But two, I really think just from the offensive side of it, when you kind of look at the league this year, I mean, there's heavy offensive presences, and if we can get consistency, and it's possible. If we can get consistent and we can get hot at the same time and get some of these guys rolling, it could be a special offense to go through there. And when you get them clicking for a week straight in the conference tournament, there's some special things that can happen.
Yeah, that's ultimately a conference tournament is a small sample. You get a couple guys hot and magic can happen there. Coach, appreciate you joining us this morning and good luck the rest of the way. All right, we roll on. We are now going to bring in Valparaiso head coach Brian Schmack, his team fighting to secure a spot in the conference tournament here in just a couple weeks. They have a big series coming up this weekend against the Bradley Braves. Coach, first off, I appreciate you joining us this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good to see you again.
A couple guys I actually wanted to, we'll talk a little bit about what you need to see from your offense moving forward to make some strides, but I wanted to talk first about a couple guys, Dinty, Illich, some guys that have just kind of been consistent as you've struggled to score some runs. I mean, having those guys as tent poles, how valuable is that? And how much are you looking for others to join him as things move on?
Well, the second part is we're definitely looking for others to join them, right? I mean, that's an obvious question and answer, I think. But, to have a couple guys that you feel can give you some quality at bats is good at this point, right? I mean, we're not scoring runs. So, to say, hey, we're going to go out, we want to try to score 10 runs a game, whatever it is, that's unrealistic right now. Now, it's possible, but, the hope isn't to just go out from 0 to 10, right? You just want to keep stringing keep stringing together some consistent at bats. And I think those guys have somewhat given us that. As they move through there. I mean, you got to remember, like Pat doesn't have much game action, right? He's been there 3-4 years. He's been hurt. He redshirted. He's playing a little bit more now consistently. Kevin's only a sophomore. He played probably half the season last year, so he's got a full year and a half under his belt now. So you'd like to see some growth in that area, and I think they're giving you a little bit of that.
Is there something offensively? Is there like a little bit of a consistent message that you feel like or something you're looking for specific to everybody in the lineup to get going in the right direction, or is it a little bit of a hitter by hitter basis what you feel like needs to happen between now and the next couple of weeks to get going in the right direction?
Yeah, I mean, I think it probably is more hitter by hitter, but there's some consistent trends we're seeing. We're taking strikes early and we're chasing later, right? So we're doing some things that obviously aren't winning and give you a chance to win. And you get to a certain time, and now you've seen all the movies, right? Hitting is contagious, right? All those other kind of things, and positive and negative. So I think when guys are starting to struggle and it's no hitter watch every game, it seems like it's like, hey, well, we got to do this, and you press, and it's just not how the sport works. So it ends up being some self-fulfilling prophecy, and usually not in a good way.
I feel like every time I talk to you, we talk about Connor Lockwood, but he just keeps doing things that are impressive. And I was curious to ask you how often in your coaching career you've had a guy like him where it feels like you send him out there and it's like all you need to do is just look up in the 7th inning and see where he's at, and then we'll go from there. How much of a luxury is that, and how often have you had a guy like that in your career?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a luxury, right? And you're right. And the guy standing next to me doing the pitching chart, usually he'll tell me how many pitches he has, and I don't even ask with Locke, right? Because it doesn't matter. And we've had a game. You look at the Murray game where we're up. I don't know what we were up 8-6 or something. Like we ended up losing in the 9th inning, and Locke's one of those. He's like, I'm not coming out of the game, right? And he says it in a respectful way, but you believe him, and you want your best guys out there, so you give him those opportunities. It didn't work out, but you do that over and over again. So you're usually blessed, I'll say that, with having a guy once every 5 to 6 years, right? That can really be, the Friday guy that you just trust that he's your best guy and you're going to let him roll, right? Locke's a little bit of an exception because I think in today's day and age too, right, where pitch counts are usually a little bit you know, you used to be able to run guys out there 120, 130, and there was no blowback, right? And now with all the training and things that are happening, you know, you get a guy 110, it's like, oh my gosh, what are we doing, right? So, but you kind of rewrite it with him and just say, hey, he's going to go until he can't anymore.
Obviously, Lockwood leads the way on the mound, but you've had Boynton and Delianis that have done some positive things. How much do you feel like that rotation, you know, at a bare minimum every time out is just giving your team a chance as it works through the offensive struggles?
Yeah, I mean, and they do, and it's right. It's one of those days where it's usually not anything in between, right? I mean, you know, Harry's had a couple games where he's lost 1-0, he's lost 2-1, you know, and then he's had games where he gives up, you know, 8 runs in 3 innings, right? So it's one of those where it's just feast or famine, and Spencer's kind of been the same, right? Spencer was hurt last year, and you know, he's shown some really good things for us, right? He's shown that he can compete in the league, and he's gone 5 shutout and this, that, and the other, and you know, you feel good about that, but you know, those guys, they gave us a chance, and that's all we can ask, right? And you hope based on the way the game's going offensively that it's going to be enough. So.
Yeah, then in the bullpen, you know, Guazo and Cruz in particular have been throwing the ball well in conference play. So it's one of those deals, right, where starters set you up to win. If the offense comes around even just a little bit, you're probably in a situation where you feel like, hey, you know, we've got a couple bullets back there in the bullpen that can really shut it down if we can just get it to them.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? If you can just get it to them, I think most guys have the same thing. There's probably 2, 3 guys that they really trust, right? And everyone else kind of falls in line that is can good, but you just don't know, right? They're inconsistent. So, you know, for us, you hate to say like, hey, this is our one shot, let's go ahead and use it, but that's the way it's been, right? So, you know, the worst thing is when you got those kind of guys, Cruz and Guaz and some of the other guys that are kind of stepping up, and it's like, hey, it's Sunday, you haven't thrown yet, and let's get a couple innings in you, right? Those are the worst things because they're just not quality innings for those guys, but it is what it is. And we've got to figure out ways to get those guys the ball in meaningful situations.
Your program is one that has had moments where it's played well in a tournament setting. I remember being there in 2021 in Carbondale, where, you know, your team really showed a lot of fight in a season when it didn't have the regular season it had wanted to have. But what kinds of things stand out to you as consistent things that are winning baseball in a tournament setting that you think your team can show?
Well, you've got to be competitive, right? You've got to have kind of it's a fight attitude, right? And you know, 2 strikes, you got to put the baseball in play, right? You just can't, you know, keel over because I mean, it's like any playoff baseball, right? I mean, it obviously it's amped up and energy should be a little bit different, right? So the teams that you see succeeding are A, the ones that can hit, right? And A, the ones at the battle, right? And if you're going to strike out a ton, you're just not going to make it very far. So, and then pitching, right? And, you know, when we start to look at some of those tournament runs, you have guys that just absolutely go off and throw strikes and they just dominate because, again, tensions are a little bit higher. Guys are a little bit nervous, especially in the batter's box, and you've got to be the aggressor in those situations. And, you know, teams that have really good pitching that are up at the top usually win. But once you get to that, you know, those losses and the other brackets, like you've got to be able to hit. You've got to be able to hit some of those 5th and 6th starters that guys have because there's just so many games. So.
Well, Coach, good luck the rest of the way. Appreciate you joining us this morning, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right, take care. All right, we roll on with Evansville head baseball coach Wes Carroll. His team 8-13 in the Missouri Valley Conference. Got an inexperienced team that's learning a little bit about the rough and tumble nature of the MVC, and he's kind enough to join us on a busy day for him on campus. As he, you know, when we were recording earlier, he was at a ceremony celebrating his seniors and the softball seniors at the Evansville in the athletic department at Evansville. And Coach, I guess I'll start there, as I appreciate you joining us. Tell us a little bit about that ceremony and kind of what you told me before we started recording about it, and then what these seniors have meant to your program.
Yeah, such a special occasion. One of the best days of the year, in my opinion. Just having graduation, really celebrating our seniors that received their diploma here from the University of Evansville, and just, you know, the whole transformation that a student athlete goes through on a lot of campuses, but here is really unique as well as they get prepared for the next stage of their life. And we're fortunate that the university offers a special, intimate type of graduation for baseball and softball players because we're always out of town when the rest of the student body can walk and receive their diploma. So just a special group of seniors and men that, you know, really helped change the trajectory of this program, as they were a big part of the last 3 years and our championship run last year. So it's a special group that I know will create a lot of special bonds that will stick together for a very long time and will be an ace for life. Yeah,
it's got to be a special deal, and you know this well from your playing days. I mean, that's that group of guys will always be linked together. They'll be back at the same reunions. They'll be back at this, and that's something in this process in college athletics that, we overlook. But I mean, in the lives of these guys, that's going to be a big deal.
Yeah, winning really creates a lot of bonds, but also no matter, set the wins and losses aside, it's the type of experience that you have with one another, being a part of a team and a culture, and just being a part of a university that cares about you. So the student athlete experience here is very unique, and we really create that family type of feel. So whenever you graduate, you're not stepping away from university. You're always going to be attached, and especially our baseball program, we have a lot of proud alums that date back to the 70s. We just had a 50-year reunion of a 75 championship team throw out the first pitch this past weekend, and just seeing the different decades and eras really still stay connected to the university, I think says a lot about not just our program but our university as a whole.
Let's talk about the team you have this year. And I mentioned at the top, just an inexperienced group, largely, kind of having to learn the MVC on the fly. How do you feel like, just generally speaking, your group has dealt with that inexperience and kind of the growing pains, if you will?
Yeah, losing a lot of very talented pieces from our run over the last 3 years. We knew our margin of error was going to have to be small. And as we navigated through the course of a very challenging schedule, especially on the road, as much as we have been, injuries have kind of just really set in and decimated a lot of different areas of the team, so to speak, and of the season. But everybody's kind of dealing with injuries. And so I'm still searching for the best version of our club. And that hopefully comes within the next 2 weeks as we get healthier on the mound. Because I feel like we have some pieces that are starting to click and play complementary overall baseball. So it's been an up and down roller coaster ride with our schedule, travel, injuries, like everybody else. We just have to find a way to really compete over these next 2 weekends so that we can get ourselves in the conference tournament to hopefully get hot and make a run at it.
Part of the injury, the other side of that is that it creates some opportunities, and Kellen Roberts gets moved up to a Friday spot, not really what he's been doing, and really battled for you. What did you make of his effort in a role that he's really not used to handling?
Yeah, just an outstanding effort from the young man. He just bounced back and threw 21 pitches on Wednesday and get his name called, and not really find out until late Thursday night in order to go out there and give us a chance, right, against, I feel like, is the best pitcher in the conference, Skiirka at Belmont. But he gave our offense a chance, and really, it's just great to see his overall growth, both physically but also mentally. This is really his first year of contributing a significant amount of innings, and just being able to see the strides that he's making mentally to be able to handle the ebbs and flow of the season, so to speak, was just great to see. And we're going to need him these next 2 weeks down the stretch.
I think we saw part of where the pitching staff gets a little bit thinner with the injuries in the bullpen last weekend, where Belmont was able to get to your bullpen late in games. What do you need to see from that unit moving forward? And hopefully, as things get healthier, I imagine that has to help.
Yeah, as soon as you get healthy with your starters, then you can kind of put everybody else in positions of success where they kind of need to be. We've really had to adjust and adapt with the injuries and put people in different roles, so to speak. And so it's been very, very challenging when it comes to that. So it ultimately starts with our starting pitching. Getting, 2 of our 3 guys back will hopefully then, bolster our bullpen and have enough bullets there in the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning to be able to close out games, because I feel like our offense and defense has put us in some good positions that we just haven't been able to finish out.
Offensively, tell us a little bit about Charlie Longmire and what he's meant to the team as a spark plug, a name that, I'll be honest, like I hadn't heard a ton about, and he's just gotten hot and really helped carry you guys.
Yeah, he's gotten hot, and it's just great to see. He was one of those guys coming into the season that was inexperienced. And I kept saying, get 50, 75, 100 bats underneath his belt, and we're really going to see a special hitter. And I think that's what we're starting to be shown out there on the field, as he's getting comfortable, he's getting confident. He's got a great swing and just plays the game so hard. He's an ace, and it's just great to see a young guy contributing the way he's contributing so early in his career. So he's got some juice, he's got some power, but most importantly, he goes about playing the game the right way, and that's extremely hard with his feet, and a confident guy in the Aces uniform.
One last thing for you is I'm kind of curious what you feel like you're looking to clean up or work on or what have you as your team heads toward the conference tournament here in a couple weeks.
Yeah, it's about getting healthy first and foremost. Just give yourself a chance, on the mound. I think that's where it ultimately always starts. Because I feel like we have some momentum going with our offense, some momentum going with our defense. It's about getting that starting pitching, getting deep into games, and then putting guys in positions come winning time that they can go and execute and get outs, and so that we can start doing high fives back in the win column.
Well, Coach, I appreciate your time this morning. Congrats to your senior class on not just on the field, but academically. Fantastic career at Evansville, and good luck the rest of the way.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. That'll do it for the MVC Pre-Championship Coaches Carousel presented by Credit Union 1. The 2025 MVC Baseball Championship will be held May 20th through 24th at Duffy Bass Field in Normal, Illinois. For more information on this year's championship, be sure to visit MVC-Sports. That's MVC-Sports.com. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.